Okay, we're on our way up to the garden this morning to pick English peas. It's early in the morning. We had to wait a little bit after daylight so that we could see to record, but this is our morning routine when we get ready to pick our English peas. And it's a little bit cool this morning, but I think it's going to be a good day for picking English peas. Okay guys, we're out here picking English peas this morning. We kind of waited till it got a little light where y'all could see. I'm going to show y'all a little bit about picking English peas because we kind of get these comments all the time as how do I know when they're ready. So I'm going to show y'all the different stages of some of the peas and show you what we like about ours. Now, you see this pea right here? This pea was what I call a good full pea. You flip it over, the back's kind of got a little bit of a white, yellowish tint to the back of it. It's at its maximum. If it goes any further, it will be no longer sugary, will be starchy. And when we pick, we don't just pull. We take our thumb and get right there and just kind of pinch it off and put it in our hand. Now, if you go to pull, English pea vines are so fragile that if you go to pulling, you'll break the vine. They have a very small root system on them, and you'll uproot them. There's all kind of different things, so take your fingernails and punch them off. Now, moving over, here is an English pea. You see this right here? This has a yellow, waxy look to it. This pea right here is actually already gone past the sugar stage, is in the starch stage, and is ready to be saved for actually seeds for next year. So when you see that pea has a very, very bitter taste to it. Now when I take it off, I'm going to push it off just like that, and I'm going to show you, I'll lay them side by side here and kind of show you some of the differences in them. You see how this one is kind of white and yellow, waxy looking? This one's still good and green. Now what we actually prefer is going to be some like these right here. If you want the best tasting English pea, it's going to be this stage right here. Now let me pull a few of these off and we'll get them out here where I can show you. I can get them laid here. Notice the difference in the colors. These four right here are a lot lighter green color. They're going to be a lot sweeter than even this one. This one is at the very peak of its sugar. It's fixing to turn to starch. This one has already turned to starch, like we talked about. So this is some of the stages of English peas and how we pick them here. And you want to make sure that they are completely full and hard, because a lot of them will look like they are, like this one right here, for instance. This pea here looks like it's completely full, but it's not. When you mash it on the sides, the hull is still flexible and is giving because the pea has not swelled out tight against the hull. So this one is not quite there yet. You want to look, and I can go up here and show you even up higher. Now here's one here. This one, you'll hear it when you mash it, the hull gives on it. These are not ready yet. They appear to be ready, but the pea inside them is not yet full. So you want to leave those kind and let them fill completely on out before you actually pick them. Okay guys, we're picking English peas here on. It's a little bit difficult when you start picking English peas. They always say there's three messes. It's a mess to plant them, a mess to pick them, and a mess to clean them up. So it's a little bit difficult when they're as thick as these are, but this is a new process we started this year with double rowing them to try to save some space in the garden. And it's a little bit hard to pick, but it's something I believe we're going to be able to work through and still be able to get as many English peas in a small area as we needed. One of the obstacles we're facing here is being able to find the English peas deep down inside these. It's a little bit difficult because they're so matted together. We're probably going to miss some, but you know, if we do, those just go for seeds, and we'll probably show that a little bit later in the video where we, you know, where we find some already that's already turned to seed. And, you know, as Wanda and I, we try to pick 2 rows at one time. We just turn from side to side. Seems to make it a little bit easier to work that way. And it's you know, it's not as hard as it looks. It's just that everything's damp and wet, and it's kind of a little bit cool this morning. We're enjoying it because our arms are getting wet and our pants are getting wet from the leaves, and it's helping us stay a little bit cooler while we work here in the garden this morning. Okay guys, we got through picking our English peas this morning. You know, not what we really like to get, but this is a 2-gallon bucket. We didn't quite get it full, so it's not going to be enough for us to actually do a lot with the first picking, but we'll get them shelled, and we'll get them in the freezer real quick so that we can take them out and can them later when we get enough of them to can. But you know, for first picking, under the conditions we're having here, extremely dry. We're having to water every day, and now the heat has done started setting in. We got a whole week of almost 90-degree temperature, and the peas are already starting to show some sign of disease and everything. So, you know, we don't know how much longer they're going to make, but we're going to try to get everything we can get off of them as quick as we can. Okay guys, this is what we're wanting to show y'all, is the disease has already started setting in on our plants here. Up under the bottoms here, see how they're dying and turning yellow. I left a pea here to show you. This pea is it's getting diseased up. It's like a powdery, it's a powdery mildew is what it is, and it comes from humidity. Because we have so much humidity here, you can see the disease is getting on the plant leaves here. It's kind of it gets a powdery look to them, because every morning is so much heavy fog and humidity and stuff like this, and there's no airflow. and what we end up with is this disease starts setting in. It'll start from the ground and start moving up. And usually once that happens, you know, you got a week or so out of your peas, but you don't get, you know, sometimes you get lucky, you might get a couple of weeks out of them, but that disease sets in real fast, especially if it stays hot and humid. Now if it cools off, you might get an extra week out of them, but we seen this morning. We automatically know we don't have a lot of time. You know, it's one of them things. English peas in the South is real tricky. We probably should have got them in a couple of weeks earlier than what we did. We just didn't make it this year. You know, the weather kept changing on us and going from hot to cold. But we're gonna do the best we can with what we got. Okay guys, this is a typical day at Deep South Homestead. We've just got our morning forage. It's like 10 minutes till 9, so we've already we picked our English peas here. We picked our strawberries. We picked our huckleberries off of one tree in the yard. We haven't went around the rest of the property. I picked some dewberries off of some vines that we have here close to the house. These are some of our mulberries that are still producing, so we went ahead and got those. We had to run the birds out of the trees this morning because they're just about to clean the trees up, so we're going to try to eradicate that problem. And then I went and got these out of the garden. The fire ants are beginning to actually kill some of our plants. The plants that had been killed, I went and got a couple of plants. I got the potatoes out from under them before the ants got to them, and you can see right there, when you see that kind of sign, that's where the ants are beginning to eat into the potatoes. So I knew immediately I needed to go ahead and get these potatoes out of the ground before the fire ants actually ruined them. But this, I want to show y'all, these are English peas here that are really good to eat. These colors here, we're going to be saving these for seeds because they have already gone beyond the sweet point, have turned to starches, and have actually got that yellow waxy look to them like that. they're already going into the mode of becoming a seed to be saved to plant. So as we go through and shell our English peas, we set these kind out to the side, and we shell these type here for eating. So you know there is a difference in that. If you eat these kind, they're extremely bitter. If you eat these kind, they're usually real sweet. So you want to save these for seeds. Okay, I always take and start on this end here where the stem was at, and I pull it, and when you do that, it usually will open right up. You got to really see how nice those peas are. Real nice English peas. That's how I pop one open. You know, I'll start with another one. Pop them open like that. They look real good.
And after picking peas comes the shelling. I don't know that there's a sheller for these.
No, I wouldn't trust a sheller on my English peas.
They're so fragile that they would just mash. I'm sure there are commercial shellers.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
But they also wait until these English peas get pasta.
Well, actually, if you go back and if you ever look at, I mean, they have videos on this. You can actually go look at these. They actually have a man who goes to the field and checks the English peas on a daily basis. And when he calls the harvester has to come immediately, because that man has to harvest those English peas and have them at the factory in a matter of less than an hour. So, because they know that if they don't, they've lost the sugar content of the pea, and it's hard to sell a product that has a bitter taste to it. And an English pea, if it's not done properly, will have a bitter taste to it. So, Wanda and I have just come out of the garden with these. We're trying to get them shelled. Now, it's got, like we said a while ago in the other clip, it's not going to be enough for us to can this one time. So what we're going to do is get these shelled immediately, stick them in the freezer in a Ziploc bags, and when we pick the next time, we should have enough to pull these back out of the freezer and actually do a canning. And yes, it does work okay, because we've done it several years in a row without any problems.
As long as you go ahead and shell them and put them, you don't wash them, you don't do anything.
Yeah, don't wash them, don't do anything.
You just shell them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and within the hour.
Within the hour.
And I shell mine different than Danny does. I use the end, you can see, he uses this end.
She uses the bloom end.
I use the bloom end, and I just mash the side and it pops open. So we shell differently, so don't say there's one way to shell a pea.
Right, there's many. It's like anything else. It's whatever is most comfortable for you is what you do.
And
there's no right way or no wrong way.
I've shelled many a peas, and this is the way I like to do it. So there again, don't say that you do it differently, because I do too.
Yeah, and another thing, these hulls, rabbits love these hulls. So
gonna be rabbit food.
It can be rabbit food. These are not like butter beans now. These don't have the little points on the end of them. I used to actually feed these to my goats when I had my milk goats, because the hull itself is extremely sweet, and it's got a high sugar content to it too. Thus, technically speaking, these are shelling English peas, but if you wanted a delicacy, you could actually harvest them before they have peas in them, and you could do a stir fry with them. I mean, it's
snow peas.
Kind of like a snow pea. Yeah, it would be basically the same thing.
We just like this size peas versus the hulls.
Yeah, we love English peas because it's actually here at Deep South Homestead. It's one of the crops that we're fairly successful at, and it is a staple for us here. It gives us something to plant when it's a little bit cool outside and you can't really get in the garden and do anything else. It kind of helps to break that, I don't know, I guess you'd call it the wintertime blues.
Yeah.
Get kind of helps get your feet wet in the dirt again, and you get you a little excited about gardening.
And when Danny says, sometimes he'll say things are a fail for us, it's not that it's a fail. It's just that when he's saying that he's business oriented,
yeah,
we produce quite a lot. It's just that sometimes when he says that, we don't produce as much as
we don't produce as much as I want or need for the year. And if I can't produce as much as I need for a year, in my mind, it has failed.
He thinks that, but to me, it's like awesome. Every bite I get is a plus for me, and I don't think of anything as a fail. So don't take when he says it's a fail that we didn't produce. We produce abundantly.
We produce a lot. Now, when I say failure, for us here at Deep South Homestead with English peas, anything less than 60 to 65 jars of English peas a year, for me, is a failure because I did not meet my quota for us to have a sufficient amount of English peas for our, what would you call the word, for our
consumption.
our yearly consumption,
Yeah, but for me, anything I pick and harvest, I look at it a different way, is that if I get 10 jars of English peas, that's 10 jars more than I had.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things that we look at things differently, but Danny looks at everything from a business standpoint.
Well, it comes from running a business for 20-something years. I ran 3 successful businesses, and in order to run a successful business, you have to think that way, because if you don't meet quota, then you failed, and you have to...
And we didn't meet it the last, 2 years?
Last year we did meet it.
Did we?
Yeah, last year we
But we ate. We've still got English peas in the cellar. Yeah,
we still have some from years before where we overproduced.
No, we're down to just last year's.
But we have last year's left because we overproduced years before.
Yeah.
Because actually, the first year Wanda and I was together, we actually raised enough English peas that we canned them, plus we sold them.
Yeah, we sold some English peas.
Yeah.
And then one year about 2 years ago, we had a total failure with English peas. We planted them late. We planted them on a hugel bed to try it, and
it failed completely.
Everything. It was the first year for the hugel bed, and first year crops usually do not do well on a hugel bed when you first
your first year crop on a hugel bed hardly ever does good.
But now this year, this will be our
third
year with the hugel bed, I believe. And last year, the watermelons did excellent. The tomatoes did fair. The year before, what did we have?
Kale.
Kale did awesome the first year.
Kale did awesome that first winter.
Yes. And so we're going to learn what cover crops to put on it, but...
Yeah. You got to learn with a hugel bed what part of the country you live in and what you can plant on it when.
Yeah. And right now I've got watermelons planted again. So the hugel bed's starting.
Yeah, it's basically just sitting dormant except for those few watermelon plants.
And we've got to run to town, so we've got to finish these up.
Yep.
And head out.
Just got to get all this done. You can't go off it's all about priorities. If you want a good English pea to eat, you got to just put everything else on the back burner, because when you have time to pick English peas, or when the day comes, they come first. Anything else, you just as well set it to the side and wait if you want good English peas.
Yeah, we couldn't have jumped up and got ready and went to town and come back and decided we'd do English peas this evening or
they would have been in the hot sun. You can't pick English peas in the hot sun and expect them to have any kind of value to them whatsoever. You don't pick any crops in the hot sun.
Yes, early morning.
They all need to be picked before the sun ever hits them in the morning in order to have
late evening.
Even late evening, they'll still wilt on you.
Yeah, but we have picked some, but we're not big about going out late in the evening.
Not in picking.
We like it early in the morning and get it done.
Yep. When I used to sell for markets, your produce had to be picked before the sun, right before the sun ever hit it and got to market, in order for people to buy it and it have the value and the taste that they liked.
This is the amount of peas that we got this morning. We're gonna Danny and I just kind of picked any blossoms and stuff out of them, and I just put them in. And we're going to just kind of pick any blossoms and stuff out of them, and I just put them in. 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 And I just put them in back. We did not wash them. They came straight from the field, picked, and hand cleaned as far as picking out blossoms and green leaves or anything like that. And it's been less than an hour. I'm going to see how many I can put in this one.
Yeah, don't overpack them in bags.
Yeah, you don't want them too packed because we don't want them to freeze together and things like that. And they won't if they're not wet. These are dry English peas. I'm going to do this and it's going to go all over the floor. You know that. Okay. Didn't lose too many.
We didn't lose too many.
Okay, so that's probably, you can see, not quite 2 quarts. It'd probably be about 1.5 quarts. I just kind of, they're not totally even, but about 1.5 quarts all together. And we'll put these in the freezer until next time, and then we can in pints. So that's what you want.
Now,
these are what Danny had left over. These are the ones that are already ready to dry.
we're going to take them into the dining room in there and we scatter them out. Do not take them out of the hull. Leave them in the hull until they have completely dried. And once they are completely dry, at that time you can shell them out and they're ready to save for peas for planting next year.
Probably what? How long? A month? 2 months?
It could take up to a month for them to dry completely, yeah.
Danny just leaves them until he has time, so that's usually a month or 2 down the road.
Yeah, I just leave them until I get time to get to them.
All right?
Okay, I'm going to show y'all what a dried English pea looks like and how to tell the difference between a very good English pea for planting, if you want sweet English peas, versus regular English peas. Now, there is different varieties with different sweetnesses in them, and I'm going to show you how to tell the difference in just a minute. Okay, one of the things I want to show you all about English peas is how to tell the difference between a high-quality English pea that's real sweet and one that's not going to be so sweet. I'm going to show you one here that's not going to be sweet right off to start with. You see this particular English pea right here? This particular English pea has a smooth texture on the outside of it. And it has a couple of wrinkles in it, but it's not very much of a wrinkle to it at all. This English pea, along with, here's another one. Let me get it up here. You see the smooth texture of this English pea? With that smooth texture like that, that English pea is not going to be sweet. It is an English pea, and it does have an English pea taste, but it is not going to be sweet. Now I'm going to show you what one looks like and how to tell the difference between an English pea when you're buying it in the store as to whether or not it's a sweet English pea to be eating or not. You see these English peas here? Look at how wrinkled up they are. They take on the characteristic of, I guess an analogy would be like a human brain, how it has all the wrinkles all in it and everything. These here, the more wrinkles you see in the pea, the higher the sugar content. So keep that in mind when you go to buy your English peas. If you're looking for an English pea that's extremely sweet, that's what you're going to be looking for, is one that has a lot of wrinkles in the pea, because the content of the sugar is a lot higher. Now, not only is this true for English peas, it's also true for corn, sweet corn. Now, if you look at this here, you ever wondered why sweet corn is wrinkled up? This sweet corn is dried and all wrinkly and everything. Now, this is the Stowell evergreen that I grow here. You see this one right here? Look at how wrinkly and how wrinkled up some of this corn is right here. That's because the sugar content of sweet corn, different varieties, is higher, and the kernel gets a lot more wrinkled up. If you buy sweet corn and the kernels are not real wrinkled up, that means that the sugar content of it is not very high. So keep that in mind even when you're buying corn, sweet corn that is, not field corn, but sweet corn. Because all field corn is round and smooth because it doesn't have a high sugar content. But this is another seed tip from Deep South Homestead. Thank y'all for watching.